All right, so we're going to read you a story today that I wrote for a student last week. This student was dealing with some feelings of depression, and he was feeling a lot of shame. He felt that he had made a lot of mistakes. He said, I feel like I can't do anything right. I keep talking to my mom and feeling like I keep letting her down. I keep messing up at school, and I just feel like I can't do anything right. And he started to feel hopeless. And so we talked about that. And as I talked to him and helped him kind of process through not focusing so much on his past, but on his hopeful future, I wrote this story for him. So I hope that you enjoy it. It is called Stepping Forward. In the beginning, all was peaceful and well. David was a young boy who grew up on a farm. Having a loving family, he was full of smiles, imagination, and innocence. Where he grew up on a farm, there were two trees that swayed in the breeze overhead. They stood guard, tall and strong. They whispered to each other and offered protection against evil. There were cows, large, silent, black and white, that munched on the soft, cool grass of the field. But as the seasons changed, something started happening. A small, subtle evil was starting to grow. It was happening inside of him. It started off very small, like a tiny little worm. It creeped from one corner of his heart to the other. Most of the time, it stayed behind the shadows, but every now and then, it would pop it out. It peeked its head out to get a breath of fresh air, and David attempted to control what he and his friends would play. When they wanted to play baseball, he yelled at them and called them names, and he told them that they should play army instead. What you want to do is more important than what they want to do, the worm said. The friends felt both offended and disgusted. Ew, they said, with the sight of that worm near his lips. They shrank away from him. After this happened a few times, some of his friends didn't want to play with him anymore. This made David feel even more sad and angry. This quick rising temper that was inside of him got him into trouble many times. Got him in trouble at school, got him in trouble at home with his parents. What's wrong with everyone, he thought, looking down at the worm. But then the worm asked a question, a more sinister question that started to form on David's lips. What's wrong with me? Well, the seasons changed and the world turned many times, and those leaves, they came and they went and they came back again. David found himself with a beautiful wife one day. Most of the time, things were wonderful, but sometimes even the days themselves can take a turn for the worst. With all the stress and the problems of his life, the evil inside of David had started to grow. It was now the size of a garden snake. And when he'd yell at his wife, it would pop out of his mouth sometimes. She yelled at you first, said the snake. It's her fault, not yours. All the while, she shrank away from him, melting into the corner with tears. For what woman wants to be near a snake? They had two wonderful children together. David loved his children dearly, but sometimes when he'd have a particularly stressful day, the children argued without ceasing. His patience would wear thin. He would allow that great big ugly snake out of his mouth. He'd yell at both children at the same time. The children cowered and ran to their rooms and slammed the doors, feeling upset and scared. The worst thing was that because David had allowed that snake out of his mouth so many times, he became used to having the snake around. It became normal. Well, that night, as David slept, he lay in the soft corner of his bed near his wife and family. But when he awoke, he was in the darkness of a cold, hard floor of a prison that he had built himself. The ground was crawling, teeming with snakes, some big, some small, all different sizes and shapes. I gotta get these out of here, he said. One by one, he attacked every last one of them, and he stomped his heavy heel in each of their heads. Oh, how they hissed, and they withered, and they writhed, and they shrieked. Ah! When he had finished, he killed every last one. He collapsed, exhausted, on the floor. He laid his head in the far corner. Oh, and he looked up towards the only light that there was. There was this window at the very top of the prison. This window had light. Where am I and how did I get here? He wondered. Hour upon hour, it turned to day upon day, and day upon day turned into week upon week, and then month upon month. How he thought to each time he allowed that snake to leave his lips. He thought back to all the hurt he had caused and all the lies he had believed. How could he have treated those he loved so badly? Oh, that I could go back, he prayed. If only I had but one more chance to make things right. Forgive me, make me whole, he said. The window brought David light and hope in the midst of the darkness. He could see the moon up at certain times of the night. Every now and again, the sun even warmed his face, and he would smile. And there was a beautiful red cardinal that flew inside one day and fluttered around the top of the prison before finding its way out. The encounter lasted just a moment, but like so many things in his life, it brought him great joy. What joy his family had brought him that he had taken for granted. What happened next is not simple to describe. You see, David had no idea where he was, and the past, I'm afraid, cannot be repeated. But as he looked to the floor, he saw the snakes were now gone. And as he looked up toward that window, he saw a rope ladder with the greatest strength there is.